This is still Signature Morning, and you're on to Signature TV, where you get the latest. You know, we always release it as how they say over in some part of the world as the day hot. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles at Signature TV on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And you can also go to very important for you to go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, share, so that others will be part of what you're receiving from us. Right now we're going to the segment. Before now there was a happening now that we witnessed, and that's the 70,000 minimum wage, Josh.
Yes. And
with the advent of that, we want to throw more light. We want someone to help expound if this is a possibility, if this is sustainable. And to do that with us is Victorson. We have him on the phone. He is a unionist and a public analyst with Radio Nigeria. Mr. Victor, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, okay. So the first question from us will be, with the present situation of our economy, is the minimum wage sustainable?
You see, I chuckle because we are between the devil and, as they say, the deep blue sea. If you talk of sustainability, you have to look at it from all angles. You look at it from the angle of the individual. I don't know if you are looking at it from the angle of the individual or the angle of the government.
Angle of the individual, now, sir.
Okay, for the individual, of course, you and I, you know how we have had a running, I would call it galloping inflation. It's the running inflation. So if you talk of sustainability, it's not sustainable. If you look at the way things are, the high level of inflation, the volatility of the economy, there are no instability for quite some time. In fact, since the Tinubu administration came on board, right from the first day, we began to witness a topsy-turvy economic situation, with his pronouncement that subsidy is gone. And of course, the business people, those in the oil and gas sector, began to take advantage of the system. So that is where we are. So if you talk, say, 70,000, in fact, it's not sustainable. If you look at how things are in the market, those of us who our wives used to go to market, the things are very, very difficult. And so if you talk of sustainability, it's not sustainable at all. But of course, you have to look at this against the backdrop of every other aggregate that has brought us to this point. And that is why, if you notice, it took a whole lot of time for Labour and the government to come to this. At one time, it was the government. It was is it 52,000, and they kept pressing, and today we are 70,000. So that is where we are. And if you are privy to some of the meetings that took place and how Labour Aluta works, you know a lot of work has gone into this. At the risk of holding sway for government, you appreciate that this is over 100% increment from where we are. They've, however, promised that every 3 years they will review it upward. But that's where we are. For me, it's neither here nor there, because it's a very painful and difficult situation.
Okay, so Mr. Victorson, of course, we would like you to make balance on what you've said. We would like to get, on the point of view from the government, how is this on their own side?
Yes, this government started off on a very shaky note. I alluded a while ago to that statement that the president made on May 29th, that subsidy is gone. That singular statement has characterized or that is defined this administration so far in terms of its economic direction. That statement meant that the subsidy in petrol that has been like the life wire of the economy was no more. And of course, you know that it was not President Tinubu who removed the subsidy. It was actually the former President Buhari who removed it but did not implement it. He only sustained the subsidy till the day his last day in office, which was May 29. So when Tinubu announced it, it gave effect to the fact that a new regime has started, and that is the regime we are battling with facing now. So if you look at it from that angle of the government, you will see that yes, subsidy is gone, but there are things that need to be put in place. And this is just one of it now, a review of the minimum wage from what it was to now 70. We are saying it's inadequate, but looking at it from the side of the government, this government is saying that there has been so much burden on it, and so much loans have been taken over the years. Not just the Buhari administration that took so much loan, people were complaining. Even previous administrations took loans. You recall that in the dying days of Jonathan administration, the government was already taking loans. Remember the CBN governor then, Sanusi, His Royal Highness Sanusi said they were already taking loans to pay salaries. So you can imagine, even before then, these things were already building up. So you can imagine that all these burdens have piled up on the Tinubu administration. For me, I think so far this administration has shown courage to say, okay, let us confront some of the issues. Let us rejig the economy. Let us find better ways of doing these things. Of course, how did we get here? It was a big cry that subsidy was a scam. I hope you recall that.
Yes.
Subsidy was a scam. And big oil and gas moguls were behind this scam. So this government is saying, okay, let us uncover this big scam, remove the drain pipes, and see how we can forge ahead and build a new economy on the reality that is actually on the ground. Because, you know, the average Nigerian, I'm sorry to say, I'm a labor person, but it's good we face reality. The average Nigerian will always tell you Nigeria is a rich country. We have oil here and there and all that. But the truth is that if you are looking at wealth, you must look at it against the backdrop of the mouths that feed on it. That is, you look at your assets and liabilities. Nigeria is rich in oil, but we are highly populated. So those are some of the challenges. Those are some of the issues. There is huge infrastructural gap across the country, not just in the southeast. Even though Southeasterners are those who cry more that there are a huge gap. Even in the south, even in the north, a lot of unmanned areas in the north. So these things have to be put in perspective. If government will have some form of resources to tackle these issues, some of this rejigging have to be done. It's really between the devil and the deep blue sea. That's why I find out best.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Victorson. So the next question I have that bothers me is that this decision, of course, will cause a ripple effect. And the private sectors are asking for public holidays, you know, to be able to get their things together, get their acts together, to be able to pay the new proposed, the new holiday, the new minimum wage. Yeah. They've asked for a tax. Yes, they've asked for a taxed holiday. What's your reaction in this?
Yes, just like we said earlier, the new reality will affect various sectors in diverse ways. For me, I think that all parties will have to become very dynamic and not dogmatic. That is, we have to look for creative ways of helping ourselves and saving the situation. For now, technically, Labour has accepted the proposal of 70,000. That's what it means. Because whenever Labour says, okay, we're going to call our, is it the neck or the organ together to decide, it means technically they've accepted. Good enough, the government is saying, okay, we can pay this. Now, the private sector sector, they are reacting based on how it affects them. They will have to now up their game. They will have to now review their salaries of their workers. And of course, you know, that is a huge gap on them. So asking for a waiver, a waiver in terms of tax holiday is not out of place. Then what both the government and the private sector should now do is to sit down together and look at the modalities of working that. They'll have to look at duration. They'll have to look at is it going to be, if you are talking of a tax holiday, is it going to be 100%? Those are all things they will have to look at, so that at the end of the day, it will not inflict more injury on the economy. Of course, you know, the temptation for the private sector and every businessman is to make more profit.
Yeah.
So those are the things influencing their request. But what is important is that there should be a breather for all those involved, all the sectors, so that we can forge ahead as a nation.
Okay, but don't you think this tax holiday would have an impact on the general economy? Like having all private sector go on this tax holiday?
Of course, it will have impact. But then, if you study the development of economies and nations, the reality about the economies that are doing well, even across the world, in Europe and America, in China and all that, there is no strong economy that must insist on being capitalist or capitalistic. Most economies, even in the US, that they run a capital economy, there are government interventions. In the UK, there are government interventions. Yes, on the banner, they will say, okay, it's a capitalist economy. But those interventions are always there. And that is why I frown. I'm not comfortable always with the Bretton Woods institutions. You know them, IMF, WTO, and all that, who are trying to pigeonhole our economic policies, giving us conditions. And most of our economists down here will just be taking whatever they give us, hook, line, and sinker. So what I'm advocating is that despite the challenges you say it may cost the nation's economy, we must look at ways of being, in this sense now, communal or communal. Yes, that's the best way I will say it. So that being your brother's keeper. For God's sake, government should not always be how to make profit. Don't forget that the removal of subsidy, this government announced to us the other time how much they will make or save from removing subsidy. So people are asking, where is that money? So some of those monies should be used to cushion the effect of this, the impact of the general downturn of the economy and the burden on the average citizen.
Okay, Mr. Victorson, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, you know, you said I want you to better, like, expatiate better. I know you've tried to explain it. What will be the impact of minimum wage on the whole strata of the economy? Now, beyond the private sector.
Beyond the private sector, you are okay, the entire economy.
Yes.
You know what it means? You can't rule out inflation in a way. The market woman will say. That is why in most cases, when at the level of labor, when we are negotiating these things, we try to reduce the hike. But it's a very difficult situation because if you reduce the hike or the media component of any struggle, some people will say, you have been compromised. So it's a very difficult situation. The whole nation has been following. So when this comes to fruition eventually, but of course they will also pay arrears and all that, it will mean a sort of relief for civil servants, those working with government, one way or the other, they will enjoy the arrears. But beyond the arrears, moves like this often lead to inflation. I just wonder, and I'm praying that what more inflation can this economy take? The civil servants, they are already overburdened by the high level of inflation. Look at the current level of transportation for people commuting to work. Look at the average civil servant. If you want to, for those of us who live in Abuja, you know how difficult it is to commute from. Many of us live on the outskirts of town. Say, for instance, you live in Kuje, you live in Lugbe. If you go to town, go to the central business district in Gariki, in Three Arm Zone, Federal Secretariat, you will pay nothing less than about almost 2,000 just for transportation. Then if you are talking of coming back, you are going to 3,000, 4,000. So that is a huge challenge already on the civil servant. So you can multiply this beyond the civil servant. Of course, you know that every one civil servant, there's an average 10 persons depending on him or her. So you can see that this whole thing brings a heavy burden on the average Nigerian. And that's where we are. And that is why our government must continue, at all levels, not just the federal government, must continue to look for creative ways of retooling the economy so that everything will not just be centered around the government. We must empower small-scale businesses so that people can find things to do. All over the world, governments are shrinking. This reality has not dawned on us. Our educational system must have to rejig from just getting certificates that we produce nothing at the end of the day. After 4 years in the institution, people are still carrying their certificates looking for jobs. They should be creating jobs. So this whole gamut of the economy has to be rejigged if we are to make progress at all as a nation. That's where we are, and it's very, very challenging.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. My last question for you. You have just in 2 minutes, please. As a unionist and as a Nigerian, what are your recommendations for the country?
For now, I would say the government so far has shown courage. The direction is not still clear yet. It's not just showing courage. The direction has to be clearer. So the Tinubu administration should show a clearer sense of direction. And when citizens see a clearer sense of direction, they will be able to follow. Democracy gives room for debate. So I would advise this government to be ready to listen to even dissenting voices. It was not a palatable thing that a few months ago, somebody in the Senate, I'm trying to recall his name now, was asked, so to speak. Just a few days ago, Senator Ali Dube was also removed. Of course, they will tell you that it's not because of his critical views of the administration, but those of us who cover politics will know that it's because of that. So the government should open up in terms of allowing for criticism, because criticism has made society better. And I want to encourage Nigeria, the civil society, the labor, keep on criticizing the government, although constructively engaging the government so that we all will be better off at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Victorson Agbeson. I know you've been very extensive. You've actually helped us expound this issue. We appreciate your input, sir.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we continue with Signature Morning. Don't go anywhere.